Okay. So this is a Q&A session, and after our Q&A, where we go over whatever you want to go over, we're going to go over, cover some of the new things that we added, which is basically tests and quizzes, and kind of demonstrate how you can add that to your current classes moving forward. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I used KP Compass a little bit during our first school shutdown. I didn't really use it last year. I'm using it this year to do the SurfSafe manager training. And one of the biggest questions my students have had is there a way for when they test, is there a way for them to see, they can see the wrong answers, is there a way for them to see the right answers?
Well, actually, they shouldn't be able to see the wrong answers either. They should see on their screen what the
maybe I'm not sure what they actually can see, you know.
Yeah, what they do see, this is an example of what they do see, is after they've taken the check your knowledge, the system tells them which areas they are not good at. So this is a feedback for like the module called Fire Safety and Health Code Standards. So it doesn't tell them what question it is, and in the instructions in the student orientation, it tells them that explicitly that we're not going to tell you what questions you got wrong. We're going to tell you, which areas you need to go back and study again. So,
okay.
So I think it's them not really paying attention to that orientation. So
yeah,
basically just reinforce that the feedback is to tell them, you really suck at birds. Go back and study. You did well on the fire safety plan. So then next time when they do check your knowledge, it's going to ask them questions if that's here, and then if they do better, it's going to turn yellow and then eventually green. And when it does turn green, the pages actually disappear off the line. So if I'm really good at HAZCOM, it'll be remediated out. So right now I'm clicking on this button here. Right now I haven't remediated any content out, but the list is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller as they continue to check their knowledge.
Gotcha. Perfect.
So related to that, actually, one teacher brought up is like, that student would be like, yeah, I'm taking this check your knowledge all the time and it's always yellow. I've never turned it green. There's actually extreme cases where you as a teacher can actually go into the system and look at every single question that the student has answered. And in a lot of cases, in that sense, what happens is the student is consistently answering a specific question wrong. So like, let me go ahead and just show like a question on our practice question set. Of course, right now it's not going to randomly pop up when I need it. All right, here's a practice question. So when you look at their history, it's going to say, hey, you've consistently answered C, which is wrong, and where the actual answer is D. So what happens is when the artificial intelligence of the system is going, hey, we're not going to turn your color to green because you are constantly getting it wrong. Therefore, I don't think you're actually reading the content. So until you actually read the content and get that correct. So a lot of kids just assume that their guesses are correct, but the system knows better. Or if they're flip-flopping a lot, it's like they get it wrong, they get it right, they get it wrong, they get it right. It's not just a, you get a certain percentage right. It actually has a level of intelligence built in to kind of figure out, do they really know it? There's like we call IRT values, or what boils down is confidence, in our tutor. So am I confident that you really know the answer to this question? No, because you've been getting it wrong or you've been flip-flopping. So I don't think you have mastered this section. So that just kind of dovetails into that a little bit. So that's what the check your knowledge portion is all about, is feedback to make yourself better. But sadly, some kids don't want to do that. So, so it's up to you to encourage them along. All right, good question. Yeah, you had a second question?
Yeah, I've got a couple more questions. Is there a way for me as the instructor to view the test that they're going to take?
Yes, actually, they're so the summative exams, which are in SurfSafe, you see here are the blue spaces. In this case, they're numbers because they're telling me that this class has scored a certain percentage points already. But they would show up as. Let me show you another version of it. Actually, not here. I don't have that one pulled up right now. Practice tests. Here it shows up like as a check mark. So that means that the students haven't, and no student has taken this test yet. The numbers just indicate that on average the class has gotten 23%, which is not good, but this is a bad class. But so if you want to preview the test, all you have to do is open up the Save Tests option over here on the left. So this will take you to all the tests that are inside of this class. And then if I want to take a look at the management test, I click on the little check mark box. Oh, look, it's not working. That's because I'm doing it in the wrong area. So this was an example of what normally happens when a teacher clicks on it and go, hey, I can't view a test. That's because I'm viewing it from the classroom. I actually have to go scroll down to the master classes. Here's the master. And in the master, then I can view it because it allows me to edit the tests as well. So let's look at hygiene test. There we go. So now I click on it, it actually works. Yeah, it's just a slightly confusing bit of our system. I apologize. So now that I can see the tests, here is the preview of the tests with the answers. You could here copy and paste it. You can actually create a printer-friendly version, which will then show you the answer key at the bottom instead of highlighting it. And then, oops, I went forward too far. And then here's all the questions for this particular test, and then so on. And it also gives you a chance to modify it if you really want to. So that's how you view a test in our system.
Perfect. Thank you. That's really helpful. So if I don't assign any students into a rotation, if I put all of SurfSafe Manager in there for them, and I don't assign any rotations, do they have all the content available to them, or do I have to assign a rotation for them to see any content?
Okay, so you're talking about the edit schedules button right here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right. So I see that you've explored into an area that's forbidden. I'm just kidding. It's not forbidden. It's a tool that's actually used for other purposes. You can use it for what you want to do, but that there's a lot more micromanaging. So there's actually two ways to accomplish that. So when you put students in a schedule in rotation, basically you have to assign them in so they can only see what they're assigned in. And if you're creating rotations, which is not what the purpose of what you want to do is then you have to actually constantly manage those assignments and then update the rotation. So the purpose of rotations is in a situation where, let's say you have a classroom and you have 6 stations. So station 1 is doing garmage, station 2 is doing knife steel, station 3 is doing butchery or whatever. And so the way that what's supposed to be done is you put 5 students in rotation 1, 5 for in station A, B, C, D. Then rotation, when you switch over to rotation 2, then the students will move on to the next set of content. So that's how rotations is designed for, is so that the students are in differentiated content within the same time frame. Now, for the purpose of what you want to do, the better way to go about and do it is this way, which is in the class, you would, let's go down to here, for culinary arts or SurfSafe, is you would only check off the ones you want the students to view at the time, and then add to it as time goes on. So that's the easier way of going about it. So you're doing it the more complicated way, which actually is the power of the tool. The tool lets you do that, but you don't need to have that level of micromanagement, because unless if you actually have a rotation situation where you have labs.
Yeah, that's caused me a lot of headache over the last
Okay.
So that's my follow-up question on that then is, if I were to remove all the students from all the rotations, does their work disappear?
Oh, so what it does is it just puts them back to default view. which in that case, well, then they'll be able to see all the content at once, so on and so forth.
Perfect. That's good to know.
So you delete it or remove it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that you didn't read the fine print that says "Do not use this."
Yeah, I really should. It's causing me a lot of headache. I teach culinary arts, but I also have food nutrition classes, and our new chef that's teaching the food nutrition classes hasn't started yet. And I was in a hurry and I knew better. I shouldn't have done this, but I put every single class period into one section, and it's like, it's been a disaster. And now the next disaster I have to deal with is getting all the grades into the right class periods. I knew better. I shouldn't have done that. But that does bring me in. Can I split those into different sections? I'm guessing no.
Well, it all depends on how you have it set up. So what we probably should do is I should have maybe have a separate section and look at what you've done, and then offer you suggestions on how to fix that. There are ways. So I'm assuming that you threw everyone into one class period.
Yes.
And you can actually separate that out. So it'll just be a little bit of a management, slight management issue, which is probably not too involving. It might take about 15 minutes of your time to fix that.
Cool.
So and that can be easily done. So don't worry. And the best part about our program is that none of their work is gone. So if you delete them, remove them from a class, the whole entire purpose of our system is to have retention of work. So let's say one student moves to another class period, their work will travel with them. If they change teachers, their progress will be retained. And even if they change schools or move to another school in let's say Florida, then if they're using our system, they log in and they'll be like, hey, this is what I've done already, so.
Okay, cool. I'll send you an email and we can get together offline about that.
Yeah, I just need to look at it, analyze it, and just give you probably a few steps to fix that.
Okay. So I'm full of questions. Jenny, if you need to ask a question, please feel free to jump in. So I saw how to download an XLS file or a CSV file of the students' grades, but they're all showing up as percentages rather than points. Is there a way to change that?
No, our system automatically calculates based on percentage. So then you just have to run our function to convert it to points for whatever.
And all those SurfSafe tests I figured out are 20 questions, so that's actually fairly easy for me to do.
Yeah. And the reason we do that is because some, if a teacher says I want to do 17 questions, or some other standard, that way, percentages will follow whatever your pacing guide or your curriculum maps are deemed. So we don't know if a test should be 100 points or 10 points.
Right. Okay. Cool.
The only thing that does actually have value in points is when you actually get into the projects. We have grading rubrics, which actually the rubrics are graded on a 16-point scale. So.
Okay. And then I think my last major question is, I have some students that English isn't their first language. Is there ability to change into different languages?
Great question. We actually have a video that shows you how to accomplish that using 2 extensions. And this is assuming that your IT will authorize it. One, they should have, which is Google Translate. And the other one is a really awesome plugin called Read Aloud. So I'll actually, that's a good one to talk about because we have a lot of good applications for that. So let's go ahead and I'm going to open up a page here. Let's look at Operations Manager. Good. So our content actually uses a open web standard, so it's not restricted of other things. Like if you ever use other platforms, they won't even let you copy and paste text because they're so restrictive. But we actually have it in such a way that any plugin can actually analyze and massage our program. So here is our program. This is a plugin called Read Aloud, and what it does is it reads the text here.
The restaurant operations manager has a critical job of ensuring the establishment runs productively.
Okay, so what you're hearing is really insanely fast speed. So I use it all the time because I actually have a learning disability where I can't read text on screen. So I actually listen to all my text. So, and I have it cranked up to insanely high speed. So let me crank it down to something more normal.
The restaurant operations manager has the critical job of ensuring that the establishment runs productively.
So as you can see, having an audio component obviously helps learning, but to your question specifically, now I'm going to pair that up with Google Translate. So I've installed the plugin in Google Translate, which allows me to actually translate the entire page. So I click on this, and then I can select a language. So let's say, they're a refugee from Afghanistan. Actually, no, let's just do Spanish. So here it is translated into Spanish, and then I could highlight the text, and then I could use the plugin to then have it actually read
The restaurant operations.
It's still picking up from the last one.
El gerente de restaurante operaciones tiene el trabajo fundamental.
Okay, trabajo. That's not right. So obviously we have a British female speaking that. So let's change that to something more appropriate. Let's do Espanol.
El gerente de restaurante operaciones tiene el trabajo fundamental de garantizar que el establecimiento funcione de manera productiva.
Okay, it's trabajo instead of trabajo. Yeah. So that way, utilizing these two plugins, you're not only translating the text, but you're also having it auditorily read to them. So that gets them on those two kinesthetics, which will especially elevate the learning.
How did you change the language on the actual?
The spoken?
No. Even like I'm looking at your screen right now and everything is in Spanish. How did you do that?
So utilizing the Google Translate plugin, when you activated it, you can actually tell it to translate the entire page. So that includes all of our textual-based buttons.
That is so. It's a Google plugin.
Yes, it's a Chrome extension actually.
Okay. I need to find that. I actually have 3 students this year that speak not a lick of English. And I've had ELL students before, but this is the first time I've had students who don't even have anything. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, this is a great way to help with that situation. Yeah,
so
and you can
it's just an extension.
Yeah, they call them extensions in Google Chrome, which is like a plugin in old language. And you can see like all of our text gets converted. So here are these buttons that get converted, and all the way down to the main menu and such and so forth. So let's go back to the original.
Okay. So it's been a little while. I didn't use KP Compass all that much last year, as much as I have in the past. Has there been any major changes from like 2 years ago to this year?
No, actually, the platform is functions exactly the same as it does. We have added like more functionality, fixed a few bugs, but fundamentally the core system is the same as it was 3-4 years ago, and actually beyond. So we've added more tools, we've added some additional bells and whistles and things like that, but nothing that would affect what you would be doing in culinary arts. Mostly it's in other core academics that we've actually branched off into, such as math and other type of
so we have access to the math. I'm sorry, we have access to culinary arts, but I know you do math as well. And there's quite a bit of math that's needed in culinary, especially fractions. Would it be possible to get some of those to help our students who struggle with those concepts that they need in culinary?
Well, the math program that you're speaking of is a math facts fluency for procedural math fluency. It's a tool and an exercise that's done and done in the classroom. So think of it as like PE for your math brain. And so it's not like a separate program that a student can just go into and then suddenly learn fractions. It's actually like if you're trying to run a marathon, well, you got to start out slow and you got to build up to it. So, but the program itself is designed to encourage students to do that marathon. So it's like the ones who are
Gotcha.
couch potatoes.
Okay.
And the beauty of it is like it makes it fun because it's gamified. They level up, they earn points, and there's actually a leaderboard that the students can then post standings on. So all those aspects actually is what the math program does, but it does take time. And in our experiments, we've had students be able to add, subtract, and multiply in their heads in less than a month of doing this only 15 minutes a day for a month. So the exercise does work. It's just a matter of finding 15 minutes to do it and then encouraging them to do it. So in a typical CTE situation, you might not have the time or luxury to do that. Maybe if your school has like a title, like a tier 2 intervention math course, they could actually utilize it in their instructions tool chest, and then that would help you out in a way.
Gotcha.
So
when
yeah.
I'm setting it up, so I just archived all my classes from before. And for the master classes, so I generally, because I teach all 3 levels, so I create a master class for each level.
Yes.
Do I have to keep, or do you recommend keeping that one generic that just says master course?
Oh no, you can delete the generic one. So if you have an extra master course that sits around, it has absolutely no function, go ahead and delete it.
Okay. And then my next question is,
unless if you haven't created a SurfSafe course, then you can label it SurfSafe. So we recommend in our instructions, we say if you are teaching SurfSafe, don't throw it into your culinary 1, 2, and 3. Keep that as a separate class. Just call it SurfSafe, and then have them.
Okay.
Because a student can be in more than one class. So here's John Graduate, who's taking culinary 1 and SurfSafe. So that way the materials are kind of like resting in 2 separate environments, so that they can focus on SurfSafe, or they can focus on culinary arts, which is this stuff. So
the one thing that always tripped me up is if I deleted something from the master course, was getting it back. Is that still something that we have to get you to help us with?
That was an advanced function, which actually is not very difficult to do. We just didn't want to teach anyone that technique initially, especially during the pandemic when everyone was going crazy, just to keep things simple. But I can actually show you how to do that very quickly here. So it's a very simple process, and I'll show you in my, which class should I throw it into? Let's do it in, let's just throw it into culinary arts. So let's say, for example, I delete, you're talking about a page or a module?
Either or.
Okay, let's say I deleted blenders and mixers. All right, it's gone. Woohoo! Oh no, I need it back. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to go to the previous level where I can see the edit button. So the extremely dangerous and yet very powerful edit button lets you edits and change practically almost everything in the program. So it's very powerful. That's why we don't want to teach it to people, because it also has a high degree of messing things up if you don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to navigate back to that bakery knowledge section over here on the left. So navigation's on the left. There's a navigation tree, and we have the pages gone. Okay, now what was the name of the page that I deleted again? Oh, first thing is you have to remember what you deleted. Okay. In this case, I did not remember what it was. Okay, well, in that case, let's go back to the original. All right, so I'm going to click on the original. So here it is. So this is a good process, because if I had memorized it, then I would have just typed it in. But since I'm talking and chewing gum at the same time, I forget. All right, blenders and mixers. Okay, so this is the original blenders and mixers. So there's actually 2 ways to go about getting it back. I'm going to show you the non-destructive way, And then I'm going to show you the destructive way. Well, potentially destructive way. I don't want to say destructive. All right, so let's get back to breads and doughs. Okay, and then this is where it's gone. I have to remember blenders and mixers. Go back to edit. And then come over here. Go back to knowledge. Okay, so then now I'm here in the bakery knowledge section, and I go, okay, let me get that page back. I'm gonna click on the little plus sign, which opens up this huge list of a bunch of things that you could do. So these are all things that you can add to this section. These are all advanced customization. So we actually have had teachers go in and create some of these games, create projects and things like that. But I'm gonna show you this tool called Existing. So basically what it does is it's saying, hey, I want to add something from some other section. So, all right, so here's blenders and mixers. Click on that and then hit OK. So that's it. And then now blenders and mixers is now a part of the pages again, as you can see here.
Oh, cool.
So Existing actually allows you to do lots of things, such as you could say, I want to add knife skills. And you can add pages from knife skills. You can add pages from knife activities. You can actually even add an entire like meats. So it allows you to do anything. You can actually even add an entire entire modules, such as well, not modules. So with this tool, you can actually create a hybrid module. So it basically lets you do anything you want.
That's cool, because there's been a couple of times where we're teaching something that is a topic that's within one module, but we're teaching it in another module, and like I would have to open up a module for a student or for students, but I didn't want them doing all of it. I just wanted them to do that one section. So that's good to know. Yeah,
you can do that, and you could actually add modules within modules, not modules within modules, but like let's say I'm in the bread. Okay, now I'm in the breads and doughs chapter, and I come over here and I click on Add Existing, and let's say I want to put in the poultry module. So I could actually put an entire module inside of another module, or so you can actually create a variety. You could do anything. So this tool lets you like say I want to put egg dishes in garde manger, put food cost controls and knife skills. It lets you do that. So that's what that tool is. Now, so this is advanced stuff. So if anyone's watching this video, we warn you to don't tinker around with it too much without proper instructions. So don't randomly click stuff. The other thing I said earlier is the other way that you could fix it is doing it destructively. Not really. I want to use that term loosely. Let's go back to the bakery knowledge section. Let me delete blenders and mixers again. Okay, I'm going to go back to the edit view. So all I did was hit back on the back button because that was the last thing I was at. So I'm in the bakery knowledge section, and then I go, hey, let me go ahead and update. Now this is a good segue into the tests, which we showed you in the very beginning of how to add tests. And what it does is it allows me to do two things, which is update, which will basically update any content in the pages, meaning that if we made any specific types of changes, it will actually update the content. We don't actually do that very much because there's very rare instances where you would need that. So if I click on it, nothing's going to really happen because I'm just updating the content. Now, if I click on revert, it gives you a little warning that it updates everything. Let's see here. Just update. Yeah. And you may lose grade data. So that the only reason we say that is because if you make a change in the module and it contains a test and the test questions disappear for some reason, then the grade data will change as well. It rarely happens because it doesn't. Teachers don't go down to that nitty-gritty of editing test questions. But just keep in mind that if you click on this button, make sure to keep keep an eye or a backup of your roster's grade data within this module. So what happens is it says, hey, I want to revert back to the original. So the original meaning like the unedited version. So if you moved pages around, you've changed stuff, you added questions, you've created projects, you've added a YouTube video, it'll say, hey, let's throw it all away and let's go back to square one, the original, and therefore, as you can see, binders and mixers or blenders and mixers are back. So those are the two ways to bring it back. We don't teach that because we don't want the tons of IT calls saying, hey, I just accidentally removed like 2 years worth of my work by clicking on that one button. So that's the purpose of that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so which is actually the button that we will be using to add the test questions that the tests that would have been created over the summer. So any other questions before I segue into that?
No, not for me anyways.
Okay, Michael, anyone? Let me see here. Okay. All right. So the big part of this this is refresher, but we're also launching a new addition to the Clark County or Nevada version of the culinary arts curriculum. And hold on, let's making sure is this. So this document here, which I will be emailing out tomorrow, so you'll probably receive it from Shannon over the weekend because she's currently out, is over the summer a team got together who created the Nevada standard version and added tests and quizzes to every single chapter and module. Before we only had the one test per module because that was the simplest and easiest thing to do at the time. But now we've had time to really go back and refine it. So what it is every single module, every single chapter now contains quizzes and a final exam that's summative. So before the exams were formative, or we call dynamic tests, which means that every question, every test, students get different questions because it's adapting itself to the student. So in this document, we talk about the different gradable types. So this is the one that we currently have, check your knowledge, and end of chapter review, which were called dynamic tests. So the only reason I mentioned this is because we technically can't use that as a summative grade because everybody gets a different experience, and it's based on how they perform. And if you think of it this way, if I went through this module, this chapter, and I'm the most evil teacher in the world, and I pick all the questions that I know the student won't be able to answer correctly, that's the kind of test that we create for them. Because what it does is it identifies the things that give them the most difficulty, so the teacher can then use that as a way to help the students out. Now, the other ones that we created are module quizzes and end of unit exams. So to kind of show you what it is now, this is let's look at the module safety and sanitation standard. So this is what it looks like now, but as you can remember, it did not look like this. So the before picture of this looked like this. Let's go down here. Look like this. Expand that so you can see it. We had the modules and then the test at the end. So now what we've done is we went through and created a test for each module. So these are like simple little 10, 15 question quizzes depending on the module. And then, so you enter these in the grade book. We have our safety and sanitation, what we call review now, which is actually the dynamic test, the ones that we had before. And then the new one, which is the end of unit exam. So these are all tests that are available for you to use or not use in your modules. So adding these tests are very simple. So in your accounts, if you haven't added the module or the chapter into your class already, just by going to the list and then selecting the module. Not like that, but when you select it and you import it in the very first time, it's going to pull a fresh version of that chapter into the class. So it's going to pull all the tests over. But if you already have a module or a chapter that's added into your class, then you're going to need to use the revert button to get that information there. So like I showed you earlier, what you need to do is you need to go to the chapter, and then you go to edit, and then you click on update, and then you click on revert. I don't want to do that to this one because I don't want to mess with this chapter. So once you do that, it's going to then look at the content and say, ooh, okay, let's bring it back to the original, and the original, or the most current version, not the original, but the most current version that's in the system, and it's going to pull in all the pages, all the content, and all the tests that have been added to that particular chapter. And we do have that caveat, like I said earlier, which is if you were to have customized that module, such as remove pages, rearrange stuff, added your own content, changed any questions around, done any kind of customization or editing using the added button or likewise, then it will be destructive because it's going to take all that stuff and throw it out the window and bring you back to square one. Okay. So that's that. And then once you have it all there, then you would then manage it like you would any other tests. So before you would have a few tests in your list, but now if you click on, let's go to culinary 2, which has the most number of tests, you click on the save test button, we're going to have a whole lot more tests available for you to give to your kids, and they're going to have so much fun taking tests that their eyes are going to bleed. Hopefully not, but so that is the new tests that we've added, a whole lot of them. I say 100, it might be more than that, it might be less than that, but it's a lot of tests that now you can then administer to your students and give them lots of grades. Okay, so that's the new addition that we've added this year to enhance the curriculum even further. Any questions pertaining to adding tests to the system?
Adding your own tests, or like adding tests that are there but just not showing?
These are adding tests that are either they're going to be there if you add the module for the first time, but if you already added it, then it's not going to show up until you update that particular chapter. So this is adding tests that have been already created for you, rather than you creating them on your own, which you can still do.
Okay, so are you saying that the tests are not, we have to do something for them to show up? Is that what you're saying?
Only if you've already added that particular unit. So if you've already added Intro to Culinary Arts into your class, into your master, then you're going to need to update it. But
as of when? Like, because if I just did it like right now,
if you do it now, it's going to update it to what we have currently in there. So yeah, Intro to Culinary Arts is actually done. The reason we haven't sent out the email yet is because we're finishing up a few of the units. So like, I think like we haven't finished like, actually Culinary Arts 1 is done. Culinary Arts 2, we still have a couple chapters that need
Gotcha.
like final tests, but that's way later down the line. So if you do the first one right now, you should be fine.
Okay.
So we just want to make sure we got to a certain spot that if you add it, you're not going to be missing anything specifically. But yes, you can do that now and update your chapter. So if you update safety and sanitation, it'll originally look like, for example, it'll look like this. And then when you update it, then it's going to look like this. So
How do you update it?
you click on edit. And then after you click on edit, you click on update.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
And then you click on revert.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then that will update the chapter with the new tests, and pretty much that's it. No new content has been added. Okay. And once you do it once, it's a very easy process. Just do it likewise. Any other questions? Good questions. Great stuff to review. Other than that, the program is designed to make your life a lot easier, and hopefully get your kids to pass that SurfSafe certification. Which I just want to reiterate one thing, since you asked about SurfSafe earlier, is that the most important thing about SurfSafe is reading the grade screen properly, where you see the test score, raw test score averages. And here, the most important thing is looking at average, which is what we should really call effort. Because if they put a lot of effort and if they're green, then they have a much higher chance of passing than if somebody has low effort in green or low effort in yellow. But also, this gives you a way to identify, hey, chapter 16, I don't have as much green, so maybe I should spend an extra day talking about food safety management. Or I can click on food safety management and I can see that everything's yellow. So that means every single one of these is I probably should address for this class, because it shows you the class average. Let's look at this one. No, actually, I just clicked on that one. This one, okay, if you look at this, be like, hey, class is doing good on preparation basics, danger zone, handling and preparing meat safely, but I probably need to go back and revisit these topics because they're testing poorly on those specific topics. So this will let you basically hone in on what's needed for your time. And if you were to tutor the individual student, like you mentioned earlier, and you look at their screen and they show 2 reds, you go, okay, let's just go through and read that section together and discuss it, because clearly you're having issues with answering the questions to that. So let you go in with a scalpel rather than a hatchet, as the idiom goes. Okay. Well, that's basically some of the most important things we've discussed and I've brought up here. So if there aren't any other additional questions, we could go ahead and conclude this session.
I do have a question, and
yes.
It's kind of out there, but so we have a second culinary arts teacher at our campus now, and we basically are teaching the same levels. So in some other schools, they'll have like one teacher teach all the culinary 1s, and then the other teacher will teach 2s and 3s. My school likes to do things a little different, and so we're both teaching all 3 levels. Is there a way for us to be in each other's classes, or to have access to each other's classes, so that we are doing the same thing, other than sitting there and making sure that we're doing the same thing?
Well, the easiest solution is to basically consolidate everything into one account, and then just work off of one account, and just log into the same account, but then just have the different class periods with the various names with your name and the other names, the teacher's name. Mm-hmm. So that way,
can
then
you have that many classes?
Oh yeah. Basically, you're talking about 4 levels, and you can have like 100 classes within each level if you want to.
Okay, because that was just, it was a lot of work trying to make sure that we were deleting the same modules, keeping the same, and it just seemed like that got to be a little tedious.
Yes.
So I was trying to see if there was another way that we can do it.
Yeah, that would be the only way to make sure that you guys are both on the same exact page without duplicating work is to basically come over here and click on add course, and then have this, and then have, this would be coloring 1, Jenny, then the other one will be coloring 1 period 3, Michael, or whatever. And then you could just basically work off the same account, and then your classes will just be listed up here. It'll just be a longer list, but that way, if you make a change on this master, it's going to reflect it for all the classes within that master.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And speaking of which, you probably already have classes in both accounts. So then all you have to do is basically do a account move process, where the students will then go, okay, if they need to move into the class in your account, then they would just type in the course code of the new class that you just created, and then you would go into the old account and then remove them from the roster of the other account. So then that way and then all of their work will move over with them at the same time.
As far as adding students, is there a quick way to like bulk add students, or
No,
is it? No. Okay.
No, the only way to add students is if they have to give them is through the self-enrollment process. So we don't have a import process. There's actually security issues that don't allow that because of password security and actually a lot to do with FERPA too at the same time.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. Thank you so much. Those were the questions that I had. I don't know if Michael has any more questions.
No, I think I'm pretty much good. Now I'm going to drop you an email about figuring out how to split my classes, but
Yes.
This was really, really helpful. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for attending this refresher. We'll actually probably call it advanced training on certain things that we did not teach you last year because we didn't want to overload you with other crazy nonsense. Anyway, so maybe I'll retitle it to the advanced so we could drive you crazy training or drive us crazy. Anyway, no, thank you very much. Good questions. Anything else? Nope.
I'm good.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, I hope you guys have a very successful year. We always want to know how well your students have passed, so what your pass rate is. And we actually have some teachers go as far as creating spreadsheets of their analysis data. So they would say, like, these are students we predicted to pass, and these are ones who actually passed, and then they actually can look at the data, which is actually kind of fun at the same time. So anyway, thank you very much again for attending, and for those of you who are watching this recording, hope you liked it, and thank the people who have attended who have answered those pressing questions that were probably nagging you in the back of your mind. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great evening.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.